Thomas Tuchel's New England contract does more than secure his services until 2028. It's also scared off at least one Premier League giant that had been lining him up for a summer move. Over the next hour, Daily Mail chief sports reporter Mike Keegan reveals details of a secret meeting between Tuchel and Sir Jim Ratcliffe, while Chelsea FC fan expert Louis Beneventi explains what life is really like under Thomas Tuchel, especially when it all starts to go pear-shaped. Tuchel's England deal has split opinion and has raised big questions about what comes next: World Cup success or disaster. So consecutive defeats in Euros finals, a heartbreaking World Cup exit to France, and that Spain defeat that was just an absolute car crash. We weren't the best team in the Euros by a long shot. After that defeat, where were you with England?
I mean, I was very much firmly in the camp of Gareth Southgate kind of probably run his course. I don't know what it is with English and people and the need to celebrate glorious failure. He sort of done his job, took the team as far as he could, and we kind of see that come maybe the World Cup, I felt. He looked very tired, looked very lethargic. The football wasn't that entertaining. And yes, we got to a final again, which is great, but at that point, it's all like getting over the line. And I didn't think Gareth Southgate quite had what he needed to make sure that England team progressed to get into that promised land of another trophy for England.
I mean, Mike, you and I were over in Germany covering the Euros. For so much of the tournament, we were calling them boring, calling it flat, and at least I was, to put words in your mouth. What were you thinking after the tournament? Were you thinking big change was immediately needed?
I thought after the tournament we needed somebody to take us over the line. With regards to Gareth, regardless of the optics, it's 3 tournaments, it's 2 semi-finals, and given where England were, that is an incredible job. But then you're kind of torn between, do we have the best players in the world? Should we have gone one better than that? And yeah, I mean, there were times in Germany where it was awful. Until Bellingham, I still remember was it Slovakia when Bellingham scored his overhead kick?
Who else?
But I remember being on the Ferry website, ready to press the button because I'd booked the ferry optimistically for the day after the final, ready to book it for the following day. And that's, we were seconds away from going out at the hands of Slovakia.
I mean, it was a crazy tournament, really, because, we came second in the end, but there was no way we're the second best team in Europe. In my opinion, I thought we were poor. Following the tournament, what was the FA thinking at that time?
Well, I think we were the second best team in Europe because we finished second. And that would be the concern, with major tournaments. There's so much that can happen. Just because you're the best team doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to win it. We've seen that quite often. I think for the FA, they had an inclination, well, more than an inclination. They would have known that Southgate was going. He'd gone close to going before. I remember the game at Wolves where they got thrashed and he just looked like a man who'd had enough, agreed to stay on for another tournament. So they had time to plan for this. They would have hoped that Southgate would have gone out with a trophy, but I think they looked at it and thought, right, we are at a level now. We have these great players. We need someone who can come in who the players will respect, but who maybe has that tactical nous to get us over the line.
And that tees you up, Louis. All the while, Thomas Tuchel is on the job hunt after a pretty uninspiring, spell at Bayern. How did you feel about his Chelsea exit and the way that all unfolded?
I mean, hindsight's 20/20. I look back at when he was going to lose his job. I look back at the Dinamo Zagreb game, and you could kind of see the team was kind of done. I think he'd represented Chelsea superbly when it looked like that the club might not exist any longer. When there was all the talk with the sanctions, and he was a great spokesperson for Chelsea, but he got everything he possibly could out of that team, and that was it. New ownership, all changed, different styles, that sort of stuff. As I said, hindsight's 20/20. At the time, I thought it was the right move. Maybe he wasn't quite getting what he needed to, and now I look at where we are now, and my God, I pine for having Thomas Tuchel back at Chelsea.
Why did he leave then? Was it footballing reasons or was it not?
I think there's a combination of things. I think he disagreed with the new structure that was being put in place, the quote-unquote collaborative nature with people that just quite frankly weren't in positions or have the nous to have that collaborative nature. And also, I think, maybe footballing reasons and personal stuff off the pitch. It's kind of what kind of pulled it all together for him to kind of move on from Chelsea.
And Mike, what was his relationship like with the Chelsea ownership?
Well, we got a glimpse. I was on the pre-season tour that summer, and it was their first summer in charge. I think it was their 100th day when they got rid of Tuchel. And you could tell in that camp that something wasn't right. So usually you go on these pre-season tours and nobody's lost a game yet, so everybody's really happy and there's a great atmosphere. And with the manager, it just seemed they'd clearly not done enough business in the transfer market for him. And I'll never forget, there was the game against Arsenal, which I think in Orlando was the last of that tour. They got hammered 4-0. And I know you don't read too much into pre-season friendlies, but he came out afterwards and he said, look, we're not ready, which is the first time I've ever seen that from a manager in pre-season. We also got a bit of a sniff of it. There was talks about, they wanted to sign Ronaldo at the time and he wasn't on board with that. And we came away from that trip thinking, this isn't going to last.
Really? So you thought even that early?
Yeah, and I think by the September he was gone.
Yeah, no, he absolutely was. But let's think about England. So when Tuchel did sign for England on the 16th of November, he took his time, and then on January the 1st, he started officially as the manager. Louis, based on what you saw from him from his Chelsea days, did you see it as a good appointment?
Absolutely. He wants someone who's going to get you over the line, be adaptive, deal with the situations, have a winning mentality. There wasn't anyone better available on the job market for me. I think we were just talking about Gareth Southgate. Look, I credit where it's due. Look, when he took over at England, it was a mess, and I don't think anyone was proud to watch England play football most of the time. I think that semi-final run against Croatia, obviously in Russia, obviously Euros final at Wembley, it kind of says everything. I think that the fact that England did get better. However, like I said, glorious failure does come to mind with Gareth Southgate. And I look at Tuchel when he came in at Chelsea, we did look all over the place. A multitude of signings, wasn't really sure where everyone was going to fit in the side, but he changed, adapted, got the job done, won the Champions League. I mean, thumbs up, doing that in a few months. I'm not going to complain about that. He's superb, and like I said, he's a great spokesperson as well.
Well, he's a winner, and that leads on to probably the biggest reason that the FA would have brought him in. Southgate did such a good job in changing the culture and getting the country interested in the national team again, especially in 2018. It highlights the desperation to win a trophy, doesn't it?
Yeah, and I think it also highlights how far the FA, to be fair to them, and they get a lot of criticism, have moved on. You go back to when Gareth took the job, nobody else wanted it. It was an absolute car crash. Big Sam goes after that scandal, and we've got Gareth, who at the time, his only experience in management had been at Middlesbrough, where he lost his job. So to have gone from there to the next appointment, to be able to get someone who obviously Louis speaks very highly of, who lots of people speaks very highly of, who's been at Chelsea, who's been at Bayern, talks volumes about, I think, where England are now and the players at the England manager's disposal.
Well, Sven-Göran Eriksson to Steve McLaren, Fabio Capello to Roy Hodgson to Sam Allardyce to Southgate to Tuchel. I think that sounds a little bit scattergun. It's like sometimes you're going for the foreign manager, then you go for a different option. Then it's maybe does the FA? Do you think do they have a clear plan of what they want?
I think the best way to respond to that is to ask a question, which is, can you give me at least 5 very good English managers that could take the job and actually take them forward? I don't think the FA actually, until recently, have really had a methodology which has kept up with sort of the quality of coaches. I mean, English managers never won the Premier League. I mean, that answers the question. I mean, there's a lack of quality in coaching within our nation. There are so many amazing coaches out there that don't get the opportunities, but then also they don't have the qualifications or the nous to get those opportunities. So it's like a recurring cycle. I think that, look, Thomas Tuchel getting the job, I get what you're saying about it being scattergun, but I mean, that is the FA in a nutshell. I mean, let's just talk about Sven. Paul Scholes on the left wing, like really? Like, come on, like think about it. It's like the whole approach has been very scattergun, but I think, again, as much as I despise the football that Gareth Southgate played, he built a culture, and that's great, and that's really important. So now it's a case of building on that, and I think, look, like I said at the time, there's no one better.
It's interesting what you say about Sven on the wing, because one of Tuchel's strengths is that he isn't wedded to a particular system. He gets the best out of the players, and he plays the system that works best for them. Mike, during the Euro, Southgate didn't seem to really know what he wanted to do. I think there was the switch in midfield. There was Conor Gallagher, Trent, and eventually Kobbie Mainoo came in there. Do you think that's one of the strengths that England can look forward to with Tuchel then? He's used to being playing the 3 at the back at Chelsea, as we saw, but actually he's not wedded to it. He can evolve.
Yeah, and I think more than that, he will pick the best team. Louis alluded to it, the ludicrous situation with Paul Scholes on the left. We've seen it already with Tuchel. He is not going to try and accommodate all these best players. He is going to try and pick the best team. And that will mean that there will be big players that aren't in the England starting 11. And I suppose the big issue then is his ability to manage those players when he's not selecting them, which will be a key in this World Cup. But the best international managers are the ones who identify the best 11 as a team rather than... I mean, we saw it with Lee Carsley when he tried to crowbar all these best attacking players into the game, one of the games that he had in charge. It was a disaster. That's never going to happen with this guy. I think he's got the courage of his convictions. I like his dealing with Jude Bellingham so far. It shows that nobody's bigger than the team, which you could argue is something that we've not had at recent tournaments. So, look, this could probably bite us on the backside, but at the moment, everything's pointing in the right direction.
And you've seen Chelsea reach the pinnacle of European football under Thomas Tuchel. That was quite a defensive setup that Chelsea had against Manchester City. But to be honest with you, watching it, I mean, I'm an Arsenal fan. I don't know if I wanted City to win their first one, or I couldn't really stand the thought of you winning your second one, to be honest, either. I couldn't see them scoring in 180 minutes then. I think that is the best defensive performance I've ever seen.
Well, I think...
So my point is, do you think he's the best person for England because he can get the best out of a string of players?
Well, I think it's the adaptive. I mean, if we want to go even further back, I've mentioned Sven, let's talk about Sir Alf Ramsey, the one England manager that deserves a knighthood, in my opinion, because he actually won it. Jack Charlton wasn't really sure if he was going to get in the team because he wasn't sure about his quality in comparison to other players, but he was the best person for that 11 to go and win the World Cup. You then look at what he did at Chelsea with Thomas Tuchel, and there are players that missed out, but there are players that adapted. Mason Mount was seen as a number 8 midfielder, becomes an inside forward, becomes the player which gets the assist for Chelsea to win the Champions League with an amazing pass in that pocket, in those spaces. He turns Callum Hudson-Odoi into a wing back. You know, there's players where he goes, okay, well, I'm going to adapt to what I have, I'm going to build the system, and then I'm going to push forward. I think the amount of talent that England have, it just gives you so many opportunities to have so many different shapes, take on so many different teams and do so many different things. And I think the beauty for it is that we're going to be more adaptive in this tournament than we have been in the past. And I think that was something which, you know, we alluded to it earlier. Gareth Southgate wasn't really that adaptive, he just didn't really know what to do with that midfield. Whereas we can go with this, well, if we need to play a back 3, we have the options to do it. If we need to play a back 4, we have the options to do it. If we want to have 5 attacking players but still have a solid shape, he will build a team to do that. And he'll also, I think, have the approach which maybe wasn't so soft, which was a bit soft under Southgate, I thought. Maybe there's a lot of passion merchantry going on, but not a lot of nous, in my opinion. We're combining both now with Thomas Tuchel, and I really think that he's going to be the person with those different styles of play, with that mentality, with everything, which can get England across the line.
Do you think that's important? Do you reckon it's more important to be adaptable or to have a philosophy and a style of playing?
Well, if you want to just win 8 games, you've got to be adaptable. It's got to be reactive and proactive. You can't have a philosophy. The philosophy was built under Gareth Southgate. That's what that was for. That was, we're nurturing this team. This is now go in the tournament. And I think, again, he'll have the adaptive nature to do that.
Do you, Mike, care seeing England play in a tournament about how they actually play? Are you results purely, or do you want to be entertained as well?
When it comes to England, it's results. I don't really care. You know, people had these romantic memories of Italia 90 and Pavarotti and how great England were. And Gaza was great, but England were awful for large parts of that tournament. The Euros that we've just seen, would anyone have remembered that England were awful for the tournament? Had they beaten Spain in the final? And I think that's what Tuchel brings. Yes, they might entertain, but I think that's a byproduct. The first and foremost, it's about results. I mean, his name escapes me, the kid from Forest who they got from Newcastle.
Elliot Anderson.
Elliot Anderson is a case in point. Who thinks Elliot Anderson is going to get in that starting 11, nailed on in that starting 11 before Tuchel gets there? But he sees it. He sees this is what this team is missing.
Yeah.
I don't care that he's not a Bellingham or he's got this, you know, amazing following and everybody thinks he's wonderful. This is what we need. It's pragmatism. And I think that's what he brings.
Well, the crux of the matter is that Tuchel has signed a 2-year deal before a ball in the World Cup has been kicked. reports suggest he views it as an incredible opportunity to lead the country into a home Euros, and the FA says it removes a potential distraction. Mike, what would that potential distraction be?
Us. Every press
In the media
conference, turning up, asking him what his plans for United are.
Yeah.
It's just, when are you going to leave? When are you going to sign your new contract? This puts all that noise to bed, so they can just concentrate on the tournament at hand. And again, from the FA's perspective, whether that United link is as strong as some would have you believe remains to be seen. But they've tied their man down. They've got rid of that noise, and they would say that he signed an 18-month contract originally because he'd never managed international before. He wasn't sure whether this was going to be for him. Obviously, it's a big shift. They would say that since then, he's loving it. The players clearly like him because they sought the opinion of the players before extending his deal, because that's what they do with the leadership group. So it almost feels like a no-brainer. Why would you do it? Yes, there are other clubs sniffing around. It's not just United, it's Spurs. Get rid of all that noise, concentrate on this tournament, and then obviously we've got home Euros. And what they'd also say is after the World Cup, such a short gap to the Nations League, it's not great to be messing around after the World Cup in the aftermath, trying to find a new coach when you've got to hit the ground running.
Do you think that United would have firmed up their interest in Thomas Tuchel?
The honest answer is that I don't know. There are two ways of looking at it. So what we do know is that United were keen on him when they were umming and ahhing over whether to sack Ten Hag and made the, with hindsight, disastrous decision to give him a new contract. They met Tuchel. He met Jim Ratcliffe, I'm told, in Monaco. I'm not sure if it was on his yacht or not. I like to think it was on the yacht. But it didn't happen. And, I think they were ready to pull the trigger on Ten Hag. So one way of looking at it is if it didn't happen 2 years ago, why would it happen now? What's changed? Now, if you were to be cynical about it, if you're Thomas Tuchel or you're part of Thomas Tuchel's entourage, you're liking this life as an England manager, would it be the worst thing in the world for all the media to instantly link you with this Manchester United job, even if you know that 2 years ago they didn't give it you and there's a chance they might not give it you again?
So do you think this contract then is more about the distraction and it putting England off during the tournament, or more genuinely to ward off potential suitors?
I think there are valid reasons, if you are the FA, to say we have brought him in for this tournament and the next, because it's a home Euros, so that's a big deal. They don't want the noise because we've seen that with England managers. It's an absolute circus. It's not just going to be us that are out in America. It's going to be news reporters. It's the whole kit and caboodle. So it quietens that noise. But I would say that they would reject that and say, this isn't about Manchester United. This is about England. This is about putting our faith in somebody who the players like, who likes us. And let's face it, we are not blessed at this moment in history with a lot of great managers who are out of work. Why do you think Michael Carrick's in at Manchester United until the end of the season? So I think I would cut in this instance. I know there have been disasters in the past. People will talk about Capello and the decision to give him a new contract, and obviously that worked out to be a disaster. But I think in this instance, the FA do deserve credit.
Well, that's what I was going to go on to. So Louis, Capello signed a deal on the 2nd of June 2010, right before they flew off to South Africa.
That went well.
That went really well.
Goal-line technology. That's what it was.
Yeah, exactly. We were robbed, actually.
We were.
So where do you stand on this deal, Louis? Do you think it's wise or do you think it's premature?
See, I'll take my Thomas Tuchel hat off for a moment. I feel that if you haven't done anything to warrant that deal, you shouldn't get it. And I completely understand what Mike's saying. It makes complete sense. But if the tournament completely falls apart, then you're kind of sitting there looking at it with more pressure and more scrutiny because he has failed to deliver. And the obvious reason he came in initially for the World Cup alone was, you are here to win this and that's it. You can bow out afterwards, whatever it is, but you go to win that tournament. It kind of, I think jeopardy is the wrong word, but it kind of removes that jeopardy a little bit, where he kind of had the pressure of going in and getting the job done, because he knows he's got another tournament. Not saying he's not going to go in and not going to want to give his best, because that's what Thomas Tuchel does. He's one of the best managers available in the world right now, because he's not just a head coach, he's a manager. So for me, I really do feel that it maybe was the wrong move, but at the same time, they're trying to ward off interest. But then again, like we said, he might not get the job, and if he's enjoying life as England manager, if he does well, that contract's still going to be there at the end of the tournament, isn't it? So I do think it's just to ward off the press and just basically trying to say, Mike, leave him alone.
Yeah, I was going to say, been warned, Mike.
I like him.
So, Mike, where do you stand on it? 'Cause it's a really interesting point that Louis makes in terms of like one tournament shootout sort of thing.
Yeah, and I like that
gone.
hired. It was almost like he was a hired gun. This is our guy. We brought him in to win this, and now we've lost that. But nobody can see the future, right? And if we go to America and stink the place out, then questions will obviously be asked. But then can you flip that as the narrative? Well, he owes us one now. God, we went to America. Who better to put things right than this guy who's been with them for a major tournament, who has been able to identify the strengths and weaknesses in that environment? Why would we change that? You know, he owes us one, surely. You know, and if we don't give him a new contract and he comes in and stinks the place out in America, in Canada and Mexico, and then we wave goodbye. Oh, cheers, Thomas. That went well.
Yeah.
At least with this, there's a chance, if that happens, and I don't think that will happen, to make sure that this is a better ending than it would have been.
Well, the World Cup is coming up. I think it's going to be the biggest event the world has ever seen. And gentlemen, I want to ask you both one important question. Louis, do you think England will win the World Cup?
I really hope so. I really want a bank holiday. That's it for me. It's so very much like everything I've said, it would be remiss of me to say, no, I don't think we're going to. I think he's a coach who can do it. I think we'll beat the teams that are in front of us. But it's a game at a time. And I really hope that England do get the job done, because, you know...
But do you think they will?
I think one of the huge things that we've not talked about, aside from Thomas Tuchel, if Harry Kane gets injured...
Yeah, fair.
We're not going to win the World Cup.
Yeah.
I think one of the things that causes me a bit of, concern is the schedule. I don't think it's great that we've got to wait so long to play our first game. Obviously, we're going to go to Florida and try and acclimatise that way, and it gives them a chance to... You just hope they're not sick of each other. It's like, God, I've been around this hotel in Kansas City for so long. I think we've got the right manager. I think... You know, we have a tendency as English people to overrate our players, to think they're better than they are. But I struggle to see a squad that is significantly better than ours. I think if we have the look that Gareth seemed to enjoy, we'll take some stopping.
Yeah, I love the optimism. I cannot see it happening at all, unfortunately.
Why are we here? Why are we wasting our time with that?
I just think France, and especially Spain, they're just better than us. I don't know. I think defences win tournaments, and so hopefully that will carry us through. But you know,
but do you not think that we were in Berlin and that Spanish team, like England equalise and are on top.
Yeah.
And then we get a throw in.
Yeah.
And throw
goes
it
back to
50
Pickford,
yards backwards, and everything changes.
Yeah.
I would like to think, and obviously it's a huge if we get to that position in that kind of game, we are in a better position because of who the manager is this time.
Right, guys, you've heard from Louis and Mike on Thomas Tuchel and whether England will win the World Cup. Let us know in the comments what you think. If you like boxing, don't forget to check out The Hook with Charlotte Daly over on Daily Mail Boxing. Until then, we'll see you next time.